What's up guys? So in this video we are going to be building this gym website. So let's quickly go through the demo of what we'll be building. As you can see, we have this nice header section that has a nice hover effect where we hover on each of the navigations, and we also have this nice hero section as well that has this testimonial section. So these two goes together. And if I click on view services now, you see that will be directed to the next section, basically the next section. And you can see that when we are in the threshold, or when we are in that particular root margin, you see that this part is active. So if we scroll down, we'll be directed to the results section. So this result section is just the results for some of the client. So if I click on this, you can toggle between them. And the cool thing about this is that the data is prefetched. So if I click on read more now, we'll be directed to the details page, and notice that we didn't have this page refreshed. So if I go back, you also notice that this didn't refresh because the data is prefetched beforehand. So I'll go to the read more again, and as you can see, this is just the details page of each of the results. So if I scroll down, you see the goals, the results achieved, and other data. So we can choose to go back, and it's going to take us back to the home page. So if I click on the about, we'll be directed to the about section right here. And if I scroll down, we'll be directed to the CTA section, and we'll be using Netlify form. So if I populate this data like so and click on scheduled consultation, you see that our form submission has been received. So we can go back to our site. So if I go back to the contact now, scroll down, we have this nice footer section. And as always, I've gone ahead to make it responsive as well. So if I go to the mobile view now, you can see it's also responsive for mobile. If I click on the hamburger menu, we'll see the services, and if I click on the services, we'll be directed to that particular section. Alright, so the tech stack we're going to be using in this project is Astro. We'll be using Tailwind and ShardCN for the different components, and we're also going to be hosting the website on Netlify once we are done. And also the link to this project will be in the description just under the like button. And just before we kick off, I just want to let you know that this video might be a long one, so take all the time you need and try to learn at your own pace. Alright guys, so let's dive right in. Alright, so I have my VS Code opened, and I just have a folder called Gym Website YT. So go ahead and create a new folder on your File Explorer and open it on VS Code. So the first thing we're going to do is to install Astro. So if I go back to my browser, just go to astro.build. And for any of you that don't know what Astro is basically a web framework for building content-driven websites. So website that deals with a lot of content and static pages, basically landing pages or static pages. Astro is a good fit for that. You can build more things, like as you can see, marketing sites, blogs, e-commerce websites, and more. But it's a very good option when it comes to building static sites like this. And if you are also trying to move away from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, this is a very good alternative. It does have a little learning curve, but that's why this video exists, and that's what I'm going to show you and walk you through. So the first thing I'm going to do is to install Astro. And right here, they're telling us to use npm, but I'm going to use pnpm. But you can go ahead and install with npm. It doesn't really matter. So I'll quickly open my terminal by holding Ctrl and the tilde sign. So I'll say pnpm, and I'll just, remember we copied this, but I'll copy it again, like so. And I'll paste it like this. And I'll hit space, and then I'll give space and press the dot button and hit enter. So basically we're just trying to create this project on this our current folder. That's why we added this dot right here. So it's telling us how we'd like to start our project, and the recommended one is a basic helpful starter project. So we hit enter, and yes, want to install dependencies, and also want to initialize a new GitHub repo. So we'll just give this a bit of time for it to initialize and download all the dependencies that we need. Alright, so I got an error, so timeout error. Just in case you run into this issue, just install it manually. So I'm going to copy this command like so and clear my terminal and install it like so. Alright, so everything is good to go, and I feel it even initialized earlier on. So I'll just clear my screen and I'll close my terminal. So just go to your package.json file, and as you can see, the current version of Astro we are using is 5.15.3. so this is just heads up if you are watching the video in the future, because a lot might have changed. So if you want to follow this project exactly and get the same result, I will urge you to install this version of Astro when running these commands. So yours will be npm create Astro at 5.15.3. so you are not going to use at latest anymore. But if you want to use at latest, that's also fine. But if you want to follow what we are doing exactly in this tutorial, I want you to install this current version. Alright, so if we take a look, we see that we have a couple of folders and files. So this first folder is just for different spellings and all. So this is from VS Code directly. It's not really important. Then this is the node modules, those files that we downloaded when installing Astro. And as you can see, it's quite minimal because I'm using pnpm. But if you're using npm, there will be a lot of files inside. And we also have this public folder. This is where you can store public assets like the favicon or favicon or any other image you want to be accessed publicly. Then we also have the source folder, and this is where we're going to be spending most of our time. So inside the source folder, we have the assets folder, and of course, this is to store different assets I'll be using. Then we also have components. So basically, components are a reusable piece of code that you can reuse on your Astro project. So if you are familiar with React, this shouldn't be new to you. Then we also have the layout folder, and this is just like a wrapper of some sort where we can add in different slots. We'll look into this in a bit. Then lastly, we have the pages folder, and well, not lastly, because we have other files to go through. And this pages folder is where each of the page is. So I told you that this layout is like a wrapper where you can put in different components or slots, but this entire file is a page. So this index.astro page is more like index.html, which is the home page. Then we also have the gitignore file, the astro.config file. Then what else? Then these other files that are not really necessary for now. So basically, those are the files that we have, and as we are going on with the project, I will explain much more deeply. So the next thing we want to do is to install Tailwind and Shartian. So the first thing we'll do is to install Tailwind CSS first. So we'll go to Tailwind, and so this right here is the URL. So we'll go to framework guides. Then we'll select Astro. I think Astro is somewhere. So this one. Then we can install it directly. And again, instead of us to do this, Astro also has a installation process as well from their own docs. So I guess if we go to integrations, so let's go to guides and recipes. So styles and CSS. So if we go right here, we should see Tailwind. Yeah, so add Tailwind v4. So this is the command to add Tailwind. So this will just do all the setup for us, unlike this that we'll have to manually set up everything ourselves. So we really don't need this one. So I'll close this one out and I'll copy it. Remember, if you are using npm, this would show. So we are using pnpm, that's why I'm getting this. So I'll copy it again, go to our terminal and paste it and install it. Alright, so it has been installed. I'll clear my screen. So if I go to our astro.config file now, you can see that it was added for us automatically and imported here as well. And you also see that we have this new global.css file with this import tailwind CSS. Okay, so we can close these all out. Then the other thing we want to do is to set up shardcn. So if you don't know what shardcn is, it's the foundation for your design system. So basically shardcn gives you pre-built components that you can customize, and it's not like a third-party library. It's just like gives you the components that you want or that you need, then you can go ahead and customize it to match your own design preference. Hence the headline, which says the foundation for design system. So the way we're going to install it is by going to the docs right here, or get started, anyone. So let's go to get started. Then we'll pick the framework. So we'll pick Astro. Then we've already done this process. What we just need to do right now is to make some changes to our ts.config file. So they're telling us to add this section right here. So I'm going to copy this entire thing like so. Then go to our ts.config file and I'll paste it here. Then add a comma before it. So we'll save, and this is throwing an error, which means that this has to be this has to be inside this compiler option. So we'll just quickly do that right here. So we say compiler options, and I'll take this guy and scooch it inside like so, and hopefully the error should be gone. So if I save now, alright, so the error is gone. So the next thing we want to do is to run the shardcn init command. So I'm using pnpm. I'll click on copy. So I'll just copy this command right here, and let me close this one out. Open our terminal again and paste it like so and hit enter. Alright, for the color we'll select neutral. Alright, so shardcn has been installed and we can now add components. But before we do that, I'll clear my screen, and I just want to render something on our UI because we've been installing things so far. So what we'll do now is to open the terminal again, and I will enter pnpm dev. But if you're using npm, we see npm run dev. Alright, so pnpm dev. So this is going to give us a port, I think it's 4321. Alright, so you can see that a port has been given to us. I'll just copy it and I'll go to a new tab and paste in that port right here. Now I'll scooch this to the first, and we're also going to leave this one because we'll be using it as reference as we build the project. Alright, so this is the landing page, and basically just the starter template that Astro gives to us by default. So it also gives us this developer tool that we can disable, which we are going to do in a minute. So basically I just want to get rid of everything right now. So to do that, I will just come right here and here, get rid of everything, and just put an empty div right here. Or is this the this is the component. So what I will just do instead is I'll just delete the entire component like so. Then for the index to Astro file, I will just say like hello world like so. Then I'll delete every other thing. Okay, so supposed to bring in the layout. That was my bad. Alright, so I'll save it like so, and we should get hello world like so. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change this port to port 3000. So to do that, we'll just go back to our astro.config file, and right here we say server like so. Then inside the object we'll specify the ports that we want. So in our case, we want the port to be 3000. So I'll just save like so, and it's going to re-optimize our dependencies. So now if I refresh, I think we should get an error this time. Yeah, so I'm having an error now, but if I go to port 3000, everything should be fine. Okay, that's a good start. So the other thing we want to do now is to get rid of this or disable these tools right here. So you can choose to leave it and audit your website. It's quite useful, very, very useful. But in order to disable it, get the command here. You can run it on your terminal, or you can just do it direct on our astro.config file. I'll just do it there since we're here. So I'll just say dev toolbar, and we say enabled should be false. Then I'll save, and this is going to refresh, and that is gone. So the next thing I want to show you is how to use the shardcn component. So in order to add a component, you just need to go to components, then search for the one you want. As you can see, all these ones are new ones. So I'll go to button, then I'll scroll down and install it via this command. So I'll copy it like so, and let me close this one out and open a new terminal. Don't want to stop this one, so open a new one, and I'll paste it right here and hit enter. All right, so that has been installed for us, and you can see that it's stored in the components folder inside the UI folder. So let me clear my screen, and if we go to the button right here, you can see that we have access to all the class, and we can choose to modify it. And I just realized that in order for you to use the button component, you need to have React installed. So I think that's why we're getting this error right here, because we can't find React. So that's fine. All we have to do now is to go to our Astro docs and go to integrations. Then under UI frameworks, we'll select React and we'll install React. So basically, Astro is server first, which means that there is no client-side interactivity. But if you want to add interactivity to your Astro project, you need to use what we called Astro Island. So basically, Astro Island allows you to add interactivity to your project. And we'll be using React, but you can use any framework of your choice, and you can also use more than one in one single project. So I'll click on this one, or rather I'll copy it, and let me just paste it right here and install React. All right, so we'll say yes, and we'll say yes again. All right, so React has been installed on our project, and one way to confirm that is to go to our astro.config file, and you can see that for the integrations we have React, and it's imported right here. So I'll get rid of this, and you can see now that the error is gone. So if I go to my index Astro file right here, I can just choose to add a button. So that button that we installed from shardcn, I'll just import it right here like so. Now save, and if I go back and come right here, we should see the button. Or we'll just, let me quickly refresh. Okay, the button is there, but there's no content. So just say click me like so, then just close this out, and we should see it like this. So as you can see, the button is just like so because the styles are not yet loaded. So in order to do that, we will go to our layout.astro file, and as you can see right here, the global style is not imported. Remember that this is like a slot, so basically the layout now is wrapping the entire thing, but the layout doesn't have a CSS file. So I will get rid of this scoped styling. I'll save, then just right here, so bring in the code fence like so, then I'll say import, so we'll go up 2 levels, then we'll say styles, and we'll say global.css. So if we save now, we now have access to it. So you can see the style is here. And if I want to change this color, I can choose to do it from here. So I say class name. So this can be BG of slate, or you just say BG slate 500. Let me use this one. I will save and we'll get that color. But the cool thing is that we had a starting style already. So I can go to this button component. So I can choose to modify it directly so that I will have like my own system, or I can come here and just use the one they give to us by default. So I can just say variant should be, let's just use, which one should we use? Let's use destructive. And let me get rid of this class name. So if we say destructive now, this should be red. So I can come here and give my destructive its own padding, background and all. So basically I can create my own design system. So that's for that. So I can quickly go back now, and what we want to do is to go back to CN, and I will go to themes. So as you can see, we are using this kind of red theme throughout our website. So I'll quickly go here and select the color. I think this is red. Then we'll click on copy code, and we're using Tailwind 4 with the Oak Larch option. So I will just copy this. So it's going to give you the roots and the dark class as well. So I'll go back to our global CSS. I remember that the default is, if I get rid of this now, before I paste what we copied and I go back here, the default is this black background, because that's what the current primary color is. So if you see primary color, click on this one, you see that the primary color is black. Or get rid of this one and this one and replace it with the one we just copied. So if we save now, the primary color should be a red, basically this color right here. As you can see, that's what we are saying. Okay, cool. So the next thing we want to do is to add some little customization. So basically I'll select asterisk and I'll say the scroll behavior should be smooth. Then also for the container class, I'll set the margin inline to be auto. Then I'll set the padding inline to be 1 rem. So we'll say media, and we'll select the main width. So main width, and we'll say 75 rem. We'll select the container class, and I will get rid of the padding inline. So basically this is just like a config that we'll just add, so that when we add the container class to any of a section tag or a div tag, it's going to work as it should. So the next thing we want to do is to install the fonts that we'll be needing. And the way to do that is to go to the Astro docs again. And if we go to the guys recipe, I think it should be here. So fonts, and we'll be using font source. So we'll be using Poppins from this font source package. So I'll just go to the URL itself. I think that'll be much better. So we'll search for the font that we need. So I'll say Poppins, click on Poppins, and we'll go to install. Then I will install with PNPN. Then we'll select the font weight. So I will just select from 400 to 900. We'll just copy the code like so, and put in the terminal and paste it right here. Alright, it has been added. So I'll clear out my screen, or my terminal rather. Okay, so in order to use it, first of all, before we copy that, inside this inline theme, so this is where you can do your different or override the customization that Tailwind gives to us. So I can come here and say font should be Poppins, like so. Then I'll just bring in the Poppins, and the fallback font will be sans serif. And also, while we are there, this entire font width that we copied, I just want to access them directly again. So I'll say font width, and I'll set this one to 300, and this will be 300. So I'll just do it from, or rather, I think we started from 400. Yeah. So this will be 400 instead. So this will be 400, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll do the same backwards here as well. Alright, cool. And while we're there, I will still set up my own breakpoint as well. I don't like the one that Tailwind gives to me by default. So I'll just say breakpoint, like so. And for small screens, set to 36 RAM. For, let me duplicate this like 3 more times. For medium screens, to be 48 RAM. For large screens, it will be 64 RAM. And for extra large screens, it will be 68.75 RAM. So this is what I like to use. Then I'll save, and we'll go back and copy this command now. Then we'll go to our layout, the Astro file, and inside here I will paste this. And in case if you are not getting this quickly line, don't worry, it's just recognizing this like an unknown word. So I'll just quickly add it to my workspace settings. Alright, so that's gone. Then I can save, and in order for us to know that the font is working, let me just quickly go to the index.astro file and just say h1 should be a low word, like so. So if I save, you can see that the Tailwind is working, but the style is still not there. So we'll just go to our layout.astro file, and in the body here, I'll just say class, and I'll set the font to Poppins. So if I save, now you can see that the font is now Poppins. So I can open my DevTools and let me hover or inspect it, and you can see Poppins showing right there. Alright, cool. The next thing we'll do now is to give this a better title and also add a description. So right here, I can just say const, then open an object like so, and I'll say title should be nothing for now. Then the description should be I think say Ryan Chase, then say your trusted personal fitness coach. So this is erroring us because we need to say this should be Astro props, like so. So this should be personal. Alright, so basically we can now have access to this, and I can replace it here. So in this title, I will just get rid of this one and pass in the title like so. Then for the description, I will just come under this generic, so duplicate it like so and change the name to description, and the content will be Astro, or rather the content will just be the description because that was what we used right here. So I can save. So if we go back now and I refresh, the title is currently localhost, but if I want to give it a title based on the page I'm currently in, I will just go to the index page, and for this title layout, I'll just pass in the title like so, and just set it to the home page like so. So let's just use this one for now. So you can see the home right here. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is to bring in the assets and the data file that we'll be using. And again, you can click in the first link under the like button in order to download it. Alright, so I've gone ahead to bring in the correct assets that we'll be needing, as well as the SVG. So if we check, you see the SVG right here, and finally I brought in the constants file and the other data. So if I go to the utils, if I can find that, so library instead. So I meant the lib. So I'll go to client storage data. So this is for the details page that I'll be building later on. And for each of the page, I will just import the data as there, which will be much more easier. Alright, so the first section we're going to build is going to be the header section. And this section we're going to be using the React component. So to do that, I'll go back to our code and right under this component folder, not in the UI, this component, I'll create a new one called header.tsx, like so, and I will say refce. I'll get rid of this. So in case if you are seeing this for the first time, what I just wrote, this refce, is just like a React code snippet. So it basically gives you like a starting template you can build from, and it's an extension. So let me look for it. I'll say React, or I think it's ES7. So it's this one, ES7 React Redux. So I'll go back to our folder, and right under this header, first thing we want to do is to add some styling, and I'll change this one to the header tag. So for the class name, we say this will be fixed, top should be 0, we'll give this a z index of 500, width will be 4, and text will be foreground. Alright, so this is erroring now, so this should be 500 like so. So we can save this, and if we go back to our UI, we need to make sure our header is showing right here. So we want it to be at the top at all times, so that when we scroll, it doesn't go away. And when we get to a new page, so if we go to a new page like we did here, you see that the header is still there. So to do that, we'll go back here and go to the layout, Astro, and just before the slot, we'll just put it right here. So we say header like so, and I'll import it like so and save. So we can go back and we should see the header and the hello world. So for now, I'll go to the page, or rather index.astro, and get rid of this hello world. So if I go back now, that's gone. So for the header, I'll get rid of the content here. I'll bring in a div with a class of container, and also have a flex items will be center, justify, going to be between, then we'll add a padding of 6, then on medium devices and up, ps will be 0. Then inside this we'll bring in a div, and this will be for the logo. So this one will have a link tag, and this will just take us to the home page, and this will be run chase. And for the class name, it should be text large z of 10, and the font will be 600. And did we add fonts? So let me confirm. Yeah, so I added it. So save this. So if we check back now, you can see it's showing, but if we check the original one, you see it's starting from a certain breakpoint. So I think the issue is coming from the global.css, and okay, this should be Excel. So if I save now, you can see now it has adjusted like this one. I think just a little bit of difference. We'll work with what we have. So the next thing I want to do is to go back and add the nav. So to do that, we'll be using a separate component. So let's create that now. So we say nav.tsx, we say rfce, like so. Get rid of this, and for now let me just import it here. So we say nav, like so. So if I check, you see the nav. Then lastly, we want to show the hamburger menu. So let me shrink this. So underneath this, create a new div, and this will have a class name of z index of 10. Flex items will be center, gap will be 4, and the medium devices and up is going to be hidden. So inside the div, create another one again, and I'll call this one, or rather give it a class name of, it should be class name. So div class name of margin left of 4, and say this should be inline block. And inside this div, we'll have a button, and for now we're just going to show the hamburger. So say align left. So now for us to use this icon, we need to import lucid icon. So I think it normally comes with Shartian. So let me check. So say import, yeah, from Lucid React. All right, so we have it here. Then for the styling, I will just say, give this a class name of translate y of 1. Then this should be y of 1, like so. Then the name, you can give it a name. I'll just call this one open menu. Then the cursor should be sent to pointer, or rather still, let's just do it on the class name. Let's say, oh, you know what, we can just do it on the button directly. So we just say class name cursor should be pointer. Then for the text size, just do text of large, like so. And we'll save, and let's just do for the X, but we're going to see both of them together. So if we go back now, you should see it, but obviously it's not interactive. So we want to make this interactive, and we also want to hide this, but let's first of all make this interactive. So in order for us to change this from this hamburger to the X icon, we need to use the state for that to keep track of what we are clicking on. So to do that, I'll go back here and I'm going to say is clicked, say set is clicked. Say this will be use state, and the initial value will be false. So I'm going to use this function, or create a function called toggle nav click. And it's going to be an arrow function. So we say set is clicked, and we'll just negate it to whatever is clicked value is. So we say is clicked, like so. Then not to use it, we need to call it you know what, let's just call it here. So I say on click, and this will be toggle nav click. So we use logical operator to check what we are currently clicking on. So we can say if it's clicked, then we want to show something else. We also want to show something. So if it's clicked, we want to show this guy, else we want to, let me copy this, like so. Or better still, this should show the X, the closed one. Let me import that as well. Then we'll change this to a close menu. So we'll save. All right. So let me get rid of this backslash here. All right. So if I click on it, it's not going to work, because remember that Astro Shift 0 JavaScript. So even though you add a UI framework, you also need to give it a directive so that it's going to hydrate whenever that component is needed. So in our case, we can go back to the layout Astro file and add a client directive of load. So I can save this. And we're basically saying once our page loads, these components will be hydrated. So if I click on this now, it's still not working. But let's try that again, because this refreshed again. So if I click on it, you can see now it's working nice. Cool. So we just need to work on this nav right here, which is basically this one. We'll go back to the nav.tsx file, and just above it I'll just create an array of objects. I'll call this navigation. So we say first one should be name, and it should be home. The href is going to be home, and I will hold shift and alt and duplicate this 3 more times, or this is a perfect use of using autocomplete from AI. So I'll just hit tab and it should suggest the other ones for me. But if it doesn't, I'll just say shift alt and duplicate this like 3 more times. So results, this will be results as well. And I'm going to let me get rid of this pound sign. Don't need it for now. So results, and this will be about, then this will be contact, and we'll say contact like so. Then for the actual div, we'll change this one to a nav, and this will be nav. Then for the class name, this will be fixed as well. Left 0, top 0. Give it its flow of flex, items, center, justify, say to start. The height will be of screen. Then we'll give it a transition. So we'll say transition should be all duration of 500. Then on large devices, we just hide it. Alright, so inside the nav tag, we'll bring in a UL tag, and this will have a class name of height of 4, width of 50%. So this is more like for the mobile nav. So we can add that. I'll add that in a minute. So we'll give it a border right. Then the border will be muted. Then also give it a background of background. Padding left will be 4. And padding top, let's just give it like 9 right. So, and for some reason, I don't know why it's okay. It's giving me the right one. So we say 36. All right, cool. Inside this UL tag, we'll loop over our navigation. So c.map, and for each item, so let me just hit tab because I normally get this wrong. So for each item, we'll bring in an li like so, and this we have a class of mb of 4. Text will be Excel, font will be 500, then to capitalize. Then we also need to set the key to be item like so, or you just use the name so that React don't get mad at us. Then inside the li tag, we'll bring in an a tag. I'm so tempted to hit tab, but we'll just type it all out. So we say this one, we'll leave it for now. Then for the class name, we'll set it to transition. So for colors, duration will be 300, and hover the text should be primary. Then for the href, I'm going to put this inside curly bracket and using the quotes like so, and I will just hit tab because this is what I want to write. Just that I will add a forward slash to this one. So basically this pound means that once we click on it, it's going to take us to the respective section instead of freezing or taking us to a new page. Then for the actual name, we just say item.name like so. So we can save this, and if we check back now, you can see it's showing here, but there are a little bit of constraint that we need to take care of. And okay, so we're getting some unique keys issue. So you know what I'm going to do, we just use index right here. So this one will be the index, so let's just use the index. Okay, this should be services, not about. I think that was why we got that error. Right, so home, we're having multiple about now. Don't know why is that. Let me refresh the page again. Okay, so everything is working as it should. All right, so we need to now sync this functionality with this one. So once we open, we want this to come outside, and once we close it, we want this to go back. So first things first is that we go back to our header component and we'll pass in this state as props. So we say it's clicked. So we just say it's clicked like so. Then for the toggle nav click, you can say this should be toggle nav click. So we can save this. Then it's going to throw a TypeScript error. So go to our nav and I'll create a new props. So say interface nav props. So let's just do nav bar props. I think this one much better. So we say it's clicked. This will be a boolean, and the toggle nav click, this will be void. So say void like so. So basically this error should be gone now. Or it's still showing. I think we need to use it. So in order to use it, we just say this will come from the nav bar props. So you can say it's clicked, and this was passing the toggle nav. So you can see that the error is gone. So for this part now, we can now use it to check right here. So I will get rid of this and use curly brackets and backticks like so. Then I'll use the $sign. I will say if it's clicked, so if it's opened, we want something to happen, else we want something to happen. So if it's opened, the translate x will be 0. Just want to hide it. Then, or rather, if it's closed, we just want to hide it, else say negative translate x, and I use an arbitrary value. So let's see if it's going to give us the real value. So this is value here. So okay, so it can be rating as 761. So we just say 761 like so. Then for the toggle nav, we're going to say right here, say on click, we say this should be an arrow function. So we say toggle nav click. So we'll call it like so. So basically once we open any of this, so it's going to go away. So basically it's just negating this back to false. So let's test that one more time. So open and we'll close it out. So if we go back now, this will be for, like, you see the mobile nav. Then for the desktop, so I think this will have to be in a code fragment so that we can easily add them. So I'll put this here like so, and let me comment this out again. Then right here we can just say desktop nav, and we're going to do something very similar because we're still using the same data here. So for this one, we'll say, I'll just bring in div. We have a class name of hidden, so it's going to be hidden. Then on medium devices and up, it's going to be flex. Then we also have a UL. Class name is going to be flex. Give this a gap of 10 and make it capitalize. Inside this UL, we are just going to loop over it. So let me copy this code right here, paste it here. So I'm going to make some changes to it. So we're going to leave, okay, no, let's just make this one, text should be, I think Excel, is it 1 rem? Okay, 1.4, so let's say large. Okay, let's just do large. Then, better still, let's just do an arbitrary value here. Then for this, get rid of this one. Then we're going to say inline block. Then so get rid of this capitalize, or you can see leave it here if you choose to. And we also don't need this one. All right, so let me save. If we close this out, you should see this right now. All right, so the functionality we want to add next is for us to be able to have this nice scaling effect, and also we still want to make each of the sections that are currently inactive. So we want to start with the home right here, so we'll just do both of them together. So in order to do that, we'll go back to our code. Now scroll back up. So right here, I'll create a state called active link. So say set active link. And this will be use state, and the default or initial state will be home, just like what we have here. So now we'll use a use effect. So basically, once we scroll, we just want to keep track of the section that we're currently in, and we want that to run only once. So basically, when the page loads, so say use effect like so. This is as written. So for the dependency array, this is going to just be an empty array because it's only going to run once. And this is one of the use cases to use effect. So inside this use effect hook, what we're going to do is to say create a function called handle scroll. So then inside this function block, we're going to store the current Y position. So we're going to say scroll position. I'll say window the scroll Y. So basically we just want to get the value as user scrolls. Then also we want to get each of the sections. So we'll say sections, and we'll say document.query selector all, and we say section, this will be ID. So we've not created section yet, but for instance, we can just say something like this. We can just say section, and whatever the ID is, so we can see ID should be home, like so. So that's what is going to be stored here. Okay, so right here or underneath here, we're going to loop over each of the sections. So we say for each section, like so. So say like so. We'll say if the section is an instance of an HTML element, so HTML elements, then okay, so I'm getting some weird formatting issue. So you know what? Let me add a curly bracket here, like so, and I guess I'll add it here, and this will be like curly bracket here. Guess we also need to add it here as well. Then for this place, we just put it at the back like so. Okay, so that error is gone. So we can say const, we want to get the value of the top, and we can only do that by saying section dot offset, I think it's top, then we subtract 100 from it. So we say section height as well. So if I can spell correctly, this one will be section dot offset height. So we can now say if the scroll position is greater than or equal to the section top, and the scroll position is less than or is less than the section top plus the section height, then set the active link to whatever the ID is, so whatever the section ID is. All right, cool. So in order to use this handle scroll function, all we need to just do right here, we can just say window dot add event listener. I also want to listen once, or rather we want this function to kick in once we scroll. So we say handle scroll like so, and they just return. So we say return window dot remove event listener, as you say scroll, passing the function again. So this is just to avoid memory leak. So once we scroll and we go back, we just want to clear everything out and restart it again. All right, so now that we have that value stored in this function here, we need to use the state here. So to do that, I will just come to my code here. For the class, let me just get rid of everything so that I'll write it again. And I'm going to use curly brackets with backticks. So say for the styling is a bit long, so just say relative transition. So say transition, the colors duration 300. So say after, so we want to add the line now, set it to absolute. So the after pseudo class again, set the bottom to let's do negative 0.2 rem, and then for the after class we set left to 0. For the after class again, height maybe 3 pixels, So for the after class, width will be 20 pixels. Okay, I think there's a value for this one, so 5. So you say 5. Then for the after class, rounded will be XL, while the transition of all to this one, so duration will be 300. Then the timing function will be ease in. Then for the hover, set the width to full, and that should still be in the after like so. Then on hover on the after pseudo state, the BG, so BG will be primary. Then we'll see $sign. So like so, if the active link is equals to whatever the href is, then I want to do something else. I just set it to an empty string. So for this part, we say it's fairly the same. I don't think it's, I'm just going to copy everything, then get rid of the ones we don't need. So copy everything here and paste it here. So we need the relative text primary. Did we add that? Okay, now I'm beginning to see reasons why I'm supposed to type this all out. So just get rid of everything. Let's just type it from scratch again. So get rid of everything. So the text will be primary. For the after studio class, the absolute bottom will be negative 0.2 rem. Left will be 0. Height will be 3 pixels. Width will be 4. So width 4. Rounded will be XL. Then BG, primary, transition will be all. Duration will be 500. And I've set this to easy, like so. So let's save and let me go back. So let's check now. You can see that we are currently on the home. I don't know if you can see this underneath. So you can currently on the home. That's why this is active. If we over on this, you can see that they are coming in nice. All right. So the last thing we'll do right here in the header component is to add this nice scroll transition or scroll. So in order to do that, you've guessed it, we are still going to use effect as well, but this time we'll be doing it in the header component. So we say header. Let me get rid of this one. So say header, and right here we want to store the state when we're scrolling. So once we scroll, we want this to show, and once we've passed a certain threshold, that should go away. So to do that, we'll say scrolling and set is scrolling, and to be used state, I'll set it to false, like so. So we say, let me just do this under here. So use effects and like so, and of course this is going to run just once. So right here we say similar thing that we did. So create a new function. I'll call this one handle scroll. like so. And so we say we store the screw position or get it. So we say screw, and this will be window dot screw y. So we want to just check. So if the screw, whatever that number is, if it's greater than 100, we set the scrolling to true, else we set a scrolling to false, like so. Then in order to use this, do similar thing. You know what? I think I will just come here and copy this like so, and just paste it right here, because it's basically similar. So what we just need to do now is to come to this header class and use backticks here, like so. So we can say if it's scrolling, or rather if we're scrolling, want to do something else, want to do something. So say bg should have a background, or rather the background will be background, like so. Then give it a shadow of XL. Duration should be like 500, and let's just animate in. Else set duration to 500. I'll say animate out. Alright, cool. So if we check now, let me try to add like some lorem ipsum here. So say lorem 1000. So if I scroll, you see the background coming, and if we scroll back up, it's leaving. So let me Control Z this one. Alright, so that's for the header section right here. So if you check for mobile, it's working fine. But looking at this now, I feel this, let's check this one if it was the same. I doubt. Okay, so this is way better. So let me close this one out, and let's go back and see where any issues coming from. So let me use a different color. Let me just say blue 500. So okay, so it's not even going all the way to the 50%. So I guess we need to make this give this a width of full. I think that's why it's holding it. Yeah, okay, so this is the reason. So we can change this one back to background, like so, and you can see the line right here. So we can make it a bit obvious. So say 1.5 pixel, like so. Just make it 2. So if it's 2, let's just do 2 border of 2, like so. And again, I just make this let's do black. I just want to see it like so. Yeah, well, you know what, I just do gray. So let's do a more fainter color. Okay, cool. So for the arrow section, what we need to do is to create a new folder. So I'll close this one since there are sections. So inside the source folder, create a new file called sections, and here I'll say hero.tsx. So this should be an Astro component, not area component, because we don't have any interactivity we'll be doing here. So we'll say, so we'll bring in the code fence, like so, and I'm going to be porting the images that we need. So say import hero from, what do you say, hero image from at assets, and we'll say hero.png like so. Then for the testimonials, so this part is also part of the hero. I'll quickly grab it and paste it. Alright, so right here, you can just say section. And by the way, this will be in the description under the like button. So this will be an ID of home. For the class, we say PT of 32. So inside this section, we'll have the container class. Then we'll say a class of grade. Then medium devices and up, we'll say grade cause should be 2. Then give it a gap of 12. Items should be centered. So basically, we want to just put this into two separate columns. Alright, so inside this div, we'll have one will be for the content, like so, and this will have a div with a class of space y of 6, so that we can have space in between each of the content. So the first one, which is the h1, it says, let me copy it here, so I'll paste it here. So we give this a class of text of 5xl, medium devices and up, text will be 6sl, font to be bold, and for the line height we'll set it to tight. Then if you notice, the trusted has the primary color, so I will just copy it and cut it and create a span tag and put it inside. Then give this class of text primary. Then for the p tag, let me copy the content as well, so paste it here. Then for the styling, I will just say text will be XL. Then we're going to create another div like so, and we'll give this a class of flex. Gap will be 4. Flex will be wrap on mobile. Then we'll give it a padding of 4. Then inside this div, we'll add the buttons. So we use the button from CN. So we say button like so. Let me import it. Then since this is a React component, it's going to be class name. So say width will be 4, and medium devices and up, width will be fit. So it's going to fit the content. Then the size will be large, and this is not going to be self-closing because we need another closing tag. Then inside there will add a tag. So this one will take us to contact, and we'll say book consultation. Then I'll copy this one and duplicate it. So Shift Alt and down. And the only thing we're changing here is that for the variant of this one, we'll set it to outline. For the content, this will be services, and this one will be view services. So if we save now and check back, nothing is going to show, obviously, because we've not added it to our home page. So to do that, we'll go to our index Astro file, and we'll say hero, and we'll say hero like so, and we'll save it. So hopefully we should see the text right here. Alright, cool. So still on the hero section, underneath this div, create a URL like so, and this will have a class of space y of 3 and a padding top of 6. Inside this, they will create an li. So this one will be class, I'll say flex items will be center, gap will be 2. So inside this one, we'll bring a span tag. I'll give this a class of text primary, and font should be bold. Therefore, the content is basically this check mark. So I'll copy this one and just paste it here and save. Then also, just below it, you can just say 15 years of experience, like so. Then I'll copy this 2 more times. So say 1, 2, and you know what? I'll just quickly copy the text like so. So replace it here. Same with the last one. So replace it here, then I'll add X. So we can save. If we go back now, you can see it right here. So the next thing we want to do is to add the image here. So to do that, let me close this one out. So close this one and we say image. So create a div. I give this a class of relative, and inside this div we'll create another div, and for this one we'll give it a bg of gradient. So set to bottom right, I'll say from primary, and this will be lighter to slate, and also give it a rounded of 2xl. And I think this is telling us that this should be linear now, not gradient. Okay. Then inside this div is where we'll have the image. So Astro has its own image component, so we can make use of that. So say image like so, and we import it. So this one is self-closing. So for the class, width will be 4. Let's do that again. Width will be 4, rounded with 2xl. Let's give it aspect of square and object of cover. Then for the source, it's going to be hero image, and for the auth, it's going to be, let's say, hero image like so. Alright, cool. So now we can see the image coming in. So the next part for the hero section is this little testimonial section. So remember, I already have the data here. All we just need to do is to come here and say let's this one be inside its own container. Then we just say testimonial the map like so. So for each testimonial, so if I can spell like so, create a div, and this time we don't need a key because we're using an Astro component, so we don't need a key to keep track of each of the testimonial. So we say for the class, say bg slate, border should be 1.5 pixels, and this should be slate. Border will be gray, 700. Rounded will be large. Give it a padding of 6 all around, and over the border should be primary. Let's make it a bit lighter, then give it a transition of colors. Then inside this div, we're going to create another div, and this time I want to just add these stars right here. So we say div, and for the class we say flex top should be 1, the margin bottom should be 4. So we say basically we just spread or create an array of 5 stars and map over them. So I will say let me just spread over this. I use the array like so, passing the value. So we can say the map like so, and let me just say okay, so we'll bring in this star icon from Lucid icons. So give this a class name of text primary like so. So if we save now and go back, so scroll down, this is what we have, but we need it to fill with the background color. So you can say fill maybe primary like so. So underneath this div, create a p tag, and this will be let me put this in quotes like so. So testimonial dot text. Then for the styling, set a margin bottom of 4. Then I'll duplicate it, and for this one we just say font should be semi bold. Then let me just put this on a new line, get rid of this quote and use this hyphen instead. Then this one will be author, add a comma, and say testimonial duration. Alright, so if we check back now, everything is coming well. We just need to add display of grid to position them horizontally. I mean, they're kind of horizontal, but you get the vibe. So what I will do now is to say on medium devices and up, set it to grid, and say grid close should be 3. Let's add a gap of 6, and let's also add the margin top of like 25. And this one will be on medium devices and up as well. So if we check now and hover on it, see now that we have this nice looking testimonial cards. So the next section that we'll be building is going to be the services section. So this is for the finished project, and this is how the services section is. So I'll quickly go back to our own local host right here and go back to VS Code, and under the sections folder I'll create a new file called services like so, the Astro, and I'll bring in the section tag, and I'll give this an ID and say this should be services. So remember, the essence of us using this ID is to make sure that it matches whatever the href is. Alright, cool. I'll also give this some styling. So for the class, we give it padding top of 30, padding bottom of 20, and give this the background is going to be a car, then we just say over 50, so that it's going to be a bit light. Then inside this section, we'll bring in a container like so, and inside this we'll bring in a div tag with a class of text should be center, max width should be let's just say 800 pixels, and it should be centered in the middle as well. Then we'll give it a margin bottom of 16. Then we'll also need to add an h2, and this is going to have a class of text of 4SL. Then on medium devices and up, we'll give this text of 5SL. And let me just go right here. Then I'll give this a line height of, call this leading of, let's just say 1.5, or let's just make it 1.3. Then we give this a font weight of bold and a margin bottom of 2. Then for the content, I will quickly just copy it like so. Let's copy this one and we'll paste it right here. So we'll save, and in order for this to show, we need to go back to our index, and we'll say here should be services, and we'll say services like so. So if we check back now, you can see that everything is coming in. So for the other smaller text, let me just copy it right now. So we'll say go back to the services file, and under here I'll put it inside the p tag, and for the styling we'll say text should be large. Then give this a text of muted foreground and a margin bottom of 12 pixels. So like so. Then I'm just having a second thought that we really might not need this 12 pixels, so, or rather this margin bottom of 12. So let me get rid of it for now. Then for the actual content now, make sure they are outside of this div. Create a new div like so, and I'll give this a class of grid, or rather, so we want this to work on medium devices and up. So right here as well, we say grid code should be 2. Then the same thing, we give this a gap of, let's just say 6, or let me just use 8. Then inside this div now we'll have different services. So in our case, we just have to right here. So for this first one, I'll just say service 1. So this will be in the div as well. And for the class, we'll give this a background of the card. Border is going to be 1.5 pixels. So give this a border of border. So the border should be border. Then add a border radius of XL, padding of 8. Then on hover, we'll set the border to primary color, but we'll just make it a bit lighter. Then have a transition of colors. Then inside this div, create another div again. So oops, so right here, create another div like so. Then for this, we'll give this a class of flex items. It's going to be center, gap will be 3, the margin bottom of 4. Then inside this div, we'll create another div again. Then we'll give this a class of width of 12, height of 12. And you can also write this in one line by just doing size 12. So it's going to be the width and the height, as you can see right here. So we can also give this a background of the primary color, but this will make it over 20 this time. Rounded is going to be large. Set it to flex items should be center. Justify will be center as well. Then give this a text of 2XL. Then inside this div, we'll paste in this guy right here like so, and underneath we bring in an h3 tag with a class of 2XL for the font size, and make it a bit bold. Then for the text, I will just copy this and paste it like so. All right, so if we check what we have now, we should see us coming through. As you can see, it's coming through. Okay, so we just need to add this other content. So just outside this div right here, outside this one, let me collapse this one. We create a p tag, and I'll copy this text like so. I'll paste it in. Then for the styling, this is going to be text muted foreground, margin bottom of 6, like so. Then for the list items, we need to put it in another list. We'll do that again. So then this will have a class of space y3. So this is going to add like a margin between each of these list items. Then we'll also set the text to muted foreground and add a margin bottom of 8. Then inside here we'll have the list items, which is going to have a class of flex. Items will be center. I'll give this a gap of 2. Then inside here we'll have the span tag, and this is going to have this bullet point like so. So remember, by default this li has its own bullet point, but we got rid of that. All right, so inside here we can paste in the first text. So we say customized. I think it's throwing something, so let me check that. No, I'll just copy this one. So copy like so, and I'll paste it like so and save. So what we need to just do right here is to copy this about many times, 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and you just have to replace the content. So I'll copy this guy and place it here. I'll also do the same here as well, and do the same here as well. So paste it like so. So if we check back now, we should see us coming in. All right, so the next thing we need to add is the price. Price right here per section. So for the price, I'll close out this UL, and right here we'll bring in a p tag, and I'll give this a text of 2XL, and font should be bold, then margin bottom of 6. Then for this we'll just say you know what, I'm going to just accept this, but I will get rid of this guy because we're going to be using the span tag, and the price here is going to be 150 per section. So I will save, and we should see it on ours like so. Okay, just that the session itself has to be black. So what we have to do is to make sure that this entire section is outside the span tag like so. Cool. So the final thing we want to do for this first part is to add the button. So we can say button. I'm going to bring that from cn. I don't know if I have that installed already. Yeah, I have that installed already. So the class name will be width of 4. Then the size will be large. So it should be large. Then remember, this is not self-closing, so we need to add content right here. So we say get started like so. Then for this should be a clickable link. So you know what we just do. Inside here, I'll bring in an a tag like so, and this will not go anywhere. We'll just say, or rather, let's just take this to the contact section. So we can just say get started like so. So I'll save this, and I will go back and you can see everything is coming nice. All right, cool. So once you already have this part, what you just need to do is to duplicate it. So I will come here and close out this guy and just say service 2, then just come here and paste everything. So I'll quickly copy the content and get back to you shortly. Alright guys, so I've gone ahead to add the content. So I've gone ahead to add everything. As you can see, we have everything coming nice and cool. And since we already have this connected, you can see this is already being active. So the next section that we'll be building is going to be the results section. So I'll quickly come right here and say, still under the sections folder, we'll say results, like so, the Astro. Then I'll bring in the code fence. So what I'm going to do here is that I'll quickly paste in the images and the data that we'll be needing. All right, so I've brought in the images and the array of objects that we'll be needing. So I'm guessing by now you already have access to the images already. So I just quickly imported them and pasting the data that we need. And for better context, if I go to results, this is the part we are talking about. So the way we are going to approach this is that we need to use like a UI framework, because this is interactive. So you can choose to do it with Astro as well, but I feel using a framework will make it much easier, and that is what a framework, and that is why a framework is needed for cases such as this. All right, so what I'll quickly do is right here, I'm going to go to components. So I'll close this asset, I'll go to code, and I'll go to components. I'll say it should be results now. And since this is in the carousel, I think we should just put this in the carousel. So result carousel, if I can spell correctly, .csx, like so. Then we'll say array fce, and I'll get rid of this one and save. And for this part, I'm just going to create a new section with an ID of results, like so. Then for the class, I'll give this a padding y of 20. Then inside the section, I'll just bring in the results carousel, like so, and I'll pass in this data right here. So I'll say for the stories, this is going to be the client stories. Then for the client directive, so we just set this one to, we use visible, so we only want this to work once we are in view, maybe like 200 pixels and up. So basically to do that, we can just put this inside double curly bracket and say root margin should be 200 pixels. So basically this just means that when we are 200 pixels in view, this should be interactive. Okay, so right now we're getting an error, which is expected because we need to add those data types to our result carousel component. So quickly go there, and right here, just before it, I'll say interface, and I'll call this client story, and we just say ID should be number, add a slug. Was there a slug right here? Yeah, so there's a slug. So you're going to make this one optional. So this will be string, name will be string, title will also be string. The before image is going to come from the image metadata. So image metadata, after image as well. So there's no video. I'll quickly scrap this and change this to testimonials. So testimonials, Monia, like so. And for the duration, this is going to be string, I guess. Yeah, so string. Then create another interface again. I'll call this client stories carousel props, and basically we'll just pass in the stories like so, and bring in the client story. Another value we want to pass is the interval at which these switches, so between the carousel. So if you notice, I guess it changes to the next slide after 7 seconds. Yeah, so we need to pass that right here. So I will say autoplay interval. This is going to be a number. We'll make it optional. So what I will just quickly do is to go back to the result right here and pass it. So say autoplay, like so. So autoplay interval. Let's just set as to 7002. All right, cool. We don't have any content right now. Okay, we don't have a content, so let's just quickly go to our index Astro, and I will say results. Like so, it should be results. So this will be from Astro. I will save this guy like so. So if we go back to our own now, we should see the result carousel right here. So let's quickly add some content to this. So go to the result carousel now, and right here I'll give this a class name of width of full, bg should be the background, py of 16, add the px of 4, then on small devices add the px of 6, then large devices will have a px of 8. Then inside here I'll create another div like so, and for the class name I'll give this a margin of auto, but before that we'll just add the max width of let's do 7xl. So inside this div now we'll bring in another one again using this period sign, and this is going to be text center, the max width of, and this is going to be 800 pixels like so. Then we'll center it as well and give this a margin bottom of 16. So this mxl is quite big, so both of them are quite different. This is just for the title right here, just like what we did right here. So I'll go back now. So we see inside this div we bring in an h2 like so, and for the class we'll give this a text of 4xl, then a line height of 1.3, and font will be bold, add a margin bottom of 2, and medium devices and up, and make the text a bit bigger. Then for the content we can just say results speak for themselves. So we can save this and we should see it right here. And notice that the page didn't refresh because we are working on a React component. So if it's an Astro file, the entire page is going to refresh, and this is just updating the DOM, or the virtual DOM rather. So underneath this we bring in a p tag, and I'll give this a class of text of large, type correctly. Then for the color we set it to text muted foreground. So inside here the text is kind of long, so I'll just copy it from here like so, and I'll paste it here. Then for the carousel container itself, I'm just going to render the whole thing before adding functionality to it. So underneath this div, we'll create a new div, and let me just add the comments here and just say main carousel. Okay, so this we have a class of flex items, center, justify, maybe center, add a gap of 4, and small device and up, add a gap of 8, like so. And inside this div, we need a button, so we'll just use regular button for this, just to keep it simple. Then for the class, we'll set this to hidden. We don't want this to show on smaller device. And we'll say SM, and we'll set this to flex. We can set the items to center, then justify should be center as well, and let's just put both of them here as well, like so. Then for the size, we give this 10, then rounded is going to be 4 to have a complete circle. So add the border, and the border color will be border. Then on hover, we have a BG accent, so this should be colon here, so we say BG accent, add the transition, set it to colors, like so. Then let's just add an area label, like just say previous story. Then for the actual content, we'll add the chevron, so say chevron left, and for the class name, we just give this a size of 5. So we can save. If we go back, we should see it right here. Then on smaller device, so if I bring this like so, or let me shrink this down, you can see that we can see it right now. All right, cool. So what we want to do is to add the story cards themselves. So I will just say under the button, so say story card, and we'll say this should be in a div. And for the class name, we'll just give this a width of full, a max width of 2XL. Then we'll have another div again, and this is going to be rounded of large. Add the border, and the border color should be border. Then we'll add the background of card and make it be lighter and say 50. Then we'll add a backdrop, so of blur, and make it small, and add an overflow of hidden. So inside this div, we create another div again. So inside you'll create another div, and basically this div is going to be for the images section. So basically this images, let me come back up, this images section right here. So for the styling, this is going to be relative, and relative like so. So we say overflow should be hidden as well. Then add a background of muted, and inside this div, we'll have under div again. Then this is going to be display of flex, and we just set the gap to 2, like so. Then SM, we set the gap to 4. Then add the padding of let's just say 4. Then on smaller devices, we want the padding of 6. All right, and when I mean smaller devices, I just mean from this particular breakpoint and up. So anything below this is not going to apply, this is going to apply. So inside this div right now, we'll bring in the before image. So this will be div, and for the styling, we set this to flex 1. Remember, we already have flex right here. say the aspect ratio to let's do 3/4. Then set the rounded to be mid and set the overflow to hidden. So I guess this is supposed to be written as, okay, we don't need to add the square bracket to this. Then inside this div, we'll bring in the image, like so. And I think we can use the image. Okay, we can't use the image component from Astro because we are currently in a React file. So if that be the case, let's just leave this one as it is. I wanted to change this back to a string, but let's just leave it as it is. So I'll just use the image tag. And for the source, we can't add anything because we don't have anything right here. So I guess it's time we start adding the actual functionality to this. So first of all, I'll make sure that this is coming in. So we say from client stories carousel, we want to bring in the stories and oops, sorry about that, stories and the autoplay. So first of all, we need to get an index of what we are currently on. So basically we need to store the index in a state, and we also need to create a state to update the duration, basically set the autoplay to true. And also what I'll quickly do now, go to results again, then I'll create a state called current index. So say set current index, and this is going to be new state, and the current index will be 0. Then I also need another state to say autoplay and set autoplay, and this is going to be true by default because we want it to autoplay by default. All right, so we need this autoplay to kick in whenever a new story or result is added. So if you remember, if I go to the results to Astro, we just have about 3 here. So once we add another one, we need it to autoplay immediately as well. And we also need to autoplay if we change the intervals as well. So in order for us to do that, we need something called a React to code use effect, like so. And this is going to be inside dependency array, but this right now currently means it's going to run just once. So basically once our page loads, that's how this is going to render. But I just said we need this to watch for different things. So we need to watch when it's autoplay. Also need to watch if the story does length increases. So say stories dot length. I also need to watch the autoplay interval, like so. Then inside this, we can just check if it's not is autoplay, then we'll just return it. So once just stop it. So right here, I'll create a new variable called interval. I'll say set interval. So basically this is an inbuilt function. So we just set it. I think it's written the same way as use effect, but right here we're just passing the autoplay, whatever the autoplay number is. All right, so we can set the current index to be the previous index, whatever the previous index. Then we say oops, so I think like so. So we say previous plus 1, like so. Then let's just put this in parentheses, and we need to add one more parenthesis here. Then we'll just say whatever the remainder is. So say stories the length. All right, so basically this will just allow us to loop between each story. So what we just need to do is to return, basically we want to clear out this interval. So say return, and we say clear interval, like so. I'll pass in the interval. So I will save. So the next thing we want to do is to add a function or create a function that will enable us to toggle between each image or each slide. So well, let's just add the function for each of the buttons. So for the previous button, we can say go to previous. So it's going to be an arrow function, and we can just, for the previous button, we can just set the current index, basically just same as this, but we just set this to the negative value. So we just say this should be negative, and also add plus the stories the length as well. So the previous values, take 148, add it to the length of the stories, then get the remainder, which will basically take it back to the previous slide. Then we set, once we click on this, we also want to set autoplay to false as well. Then on the next one, I believe for the next one, this is what we need. So I'll copy this. I will say go to next, like so. Then we'll say I'll paste it here and set autoplay to false as well. All right, so I will save this, and we'll also need one more, and this one is going to be for the slide. So remember that for each of these we also have the slides as well. So you can say go slide, and this will just depend on the current index that we're on. So say index should be type of number, and we'll say set the current index to whatever the index is. Set, so we set autoplay to false as well. So right here we just map over it and just pass in whatever the current index is. All right, so what we need to do now is to create a new variable called current story, and we want to get the entire stories and just pass in current index. So current index now is what is 0. So when we click on previous value, is going to loop to the last object on the stories array and just show that. So this is what we're going to use. So right here, so just here we can say current story dot before image or src, like so. So make sure you add this src, if not it's not going to work. Then for the alt tag, just keep it simple. I just say you know what, we just say current story dot name. I'll add it before, like so. Then for the class, let me just do it here. Then for the class name, we'll give this a width of 4, height of 4, object, set it to cover. Then for the button, you can just say on click, we'll set the bring in the go to previous function, and also you can decide to do on mouse enter as well. So you can see on mouse enter, then you just set autoplay to true if you want to do this, but I'm not going to do that. Well, if you are doing this, also make sure you add on mouse leave as well. rather this first one should be false. Sorry about that. Then this mouse leaf should be true. So you can choose to implement this if you want to, but I'm not going to do that, so I'll just get rid of it. All right, so this is what we currently have, and remember this is the before image. So I'll click back and you can see that I can easily toggle between three images. So come outside this guy right here, and I'll create a new div with a class of padding of 6, and say SM should be P8 like so. Then we'll bring in a P tag. The class will be text of small, font is going to be semi bold, text will be muted, foreground, then margin bottom will be 3. And for the content, this is just going to be the current story dot duration. Then for the testimonial itself, this is going to be in a P tag as well. So let me just copy this and paste it here. So this one will be testimonial. Then for the styling, I copy this. Let me Ctrl Z this. So this ought to be testimonial, and this will be large. Then on smaller devices, up is going to be extra large. Then we'll leave this at text foreground like so. The margin will be 6 and the line height will be relaxed. And I don't think we need a font width on this, so let me save. Let's see what we have. All right, cool. For the next name and read more button, this is going to be in a div, and let me give this a class of flex. Items will be center, justify will be between. Sorry for the noise, guys. Then inside this div, I'm going to have a P tag, and this is going to be have a class of text based. I think this is a default one, so we don't really need this. We just give it the font of semi bold, and text should be primary like so. Then for the content, we just set this to the current story dot name. So this should be dot name. Then for the link tag, we just create a link tag like so, and this is going to take us to use backticks and $sign. So it's going to take us to let me just bring this out. So / client story / again, then we'll say current story dot log. So we've not created this page yet. I'm going to do that after creating this section right here. So the content is going to be read more. I think there's an arrow sign. Yeah, so let me just copy the arrow sign, and this is going to be in a span tag. Paste that in. Then for the styling, this is just going to be a text of large like so. Then for the styling for the A tag, let's just give this text of small, font should be medium, the text is going to be foreground like so. Then on hover, the text will be, keep doing this wrong, the text will be primary. Then add the transition. So transition of, let's just do colors, and since we have a span here, we just need to add a flex. So let me just do it right here. So we'll say flex, items will be center, and add a gap of 1. So I can save this. If I go back, can see that this is coming in nice. So let's add the after image. So come back to the top and just right here, I will copy this and paste it here. I will set this to after image, and this will be you know what, I'll just hit tab just to save us stress. We should see it like so. Cool. So if we go back now, see that everything is looping by itself. So we can go back to our code and we need to add the right button here. So let's just say 1, 2, 3. I think this is the last div for that section. So under this, I'll create the right button. So you know what? I'll copy this button and I'll paste it right here. And this will go to next. So let's say next story. And this is going to be chevron right. So we can save and let me get rid of this. Alright, so we can toggle between the left and the right. And remember that this button we added is for desktop. So on mobile, we don't have any button. So we need to add a previous and next button on mobile as well. So you know what, let me just even shrink this down more. Alright, so underneath this div, you can just say let me just add a comment here. So mobile navigation arrows. Then we'll create a div right here. I'll give this flex. Then on smaller devices and up should be now hidden. Justify with between emerging top will be 4. Alright, inside here we'll just do the same thing. So I'll just copy this guy, and this will be for the next. And you know what, I'll copy this guy again, and this is going to be for the previous button. So let's see how that looks. So it's not showing because obviously we need to get rid of this one. We're already using it here. So right here, what we just need to do is say flex should be 1, and just set it to flex as well. Then items should be center, like so. Justify will be center as well. I think that's basically it. Let me just copy this and replace it with this one. So if we check now, we should see it, just that it's not looking nice. So let's look at the original one. That's what I'm using to compare. Okay, so it's almost there. We just need to get rid of some few things. Alright, so the first thing to do is I'll still add the flex to this as well. Then the rounded will be MD. Then hover will be accent. I think we should leave this as it is. Okay, so this button is cool. Then what we just need to do is copy it again and replace it with this one. So the other thing we just need to add is just to add a little gap. So we can just say gap should be like 2, or you can make it 4 if you choose to, but I'll just leave mine at 2. Alright, nice. So I think that's for this part. So the last part we're going to add, oops, let me bring that back, get rid of this. So let's go back to our own project. So the last part we're going to add is the dots navigation. So basically this 3 dots right here. So to do that, just below this div, I just say dots navigation, like so. Then this is going to be inside the div, and this will be flex. justify, it's going to be center, add a gap of 2, margin of 8, and inside this div, like I said, we're going to loop over each of the stories, and we're going to be passing the index to the go to slide function. So I will just accept this as a starting point. You know what, let's just do it by hand. I think it will be much better. So we can say stories map. So you can choose to, I think I can hit tab now, but you can choose to add something right here. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Then for this part, so inside this part now, we'll just add a button like so. And I also think we need to add another square bracket here. Okay, cool. So basically, I will just pass in the index for the key. So index, then on click, remember we'll just call the go to slide function, and I'll pass in that index. So for the button itself, give this a class name. I'm going to be using the C name. Make sure I import that, and it should be inside curly bracket like so. So C name like so. And make sure I imported the right one from the C from the utils file. So I'll go back. I just give this a base style of size of 2, rounded should be full, then transition, so transition should be all, then duration is going to be 300 milliseconds, then add a comma right here. I'll say if the index is equals to the current index, then we want to add a background of primary and set the width to 8, else we'll set the background to muted foreground, and this should be muted. And also on hover, we set the background to muted foreground, but this time we'll make it should be foreground, but this time we'll make it a bit lighter by adding an opacity. And this button should be self-closing, so just make sure it's self-closing. Get rid of it right here. Then you can choose to add an area label if you want to. So you can see area label. It's not if you want to, this is really necessary. So we'll say go to story, and again they're just add the backticks here. I don't know what's wrong with my fingers today. So okay, so say index +1, and yeah, I think, is there anything else? Let's check. Okay, I think this is criminatus. Okay, so we don't need the type. Do well. Okay, yeah. So we don't need that type there. So we can save it. And if we go back, see that we have it right here. And you can see that it's working as it should. And this is working as well. So the next thing we're going to do is to create the client details page or the story details page. And as you can see, the data are dynamic, so we'll be using the dynamic route from Astro. So I'll go back to our own tab, and the function we are going to use to achieve that, it's a function called get static paths in Astro. So let me quickly search for that. So say get static paths Astro. So you know what, let me click on dynamic routes, because that's what we are concerned with. Okay, so you can see that an Astro file can specify dynamic route parameters in its file name to generate multiple matching pages. So they give an example here. So if you want to create a dynamic route, it has to be inside the source folder and inside the pages folder as well. So this is how it's being created. And also the mode we are given by default is the static mode. And as you can see, in Astro's default static output mode, these pages are generated at build time. And so you must predetermine the list of, in this case they're using authors, but in our own case now, we must predetermine the list of different user stories that gets a corresponding file. So if you are in SSR, so if you're not on SSG, and just for context, if you don't know the full meaning of SSG and SSR, basically SSG means static site generation, then SSR means server-side rendering. And in SSR mode, the page will be generated on request for any route that matches. So it's not generated at build time. But in our own case, since we're working with local data or static data, our pages need to be generated at build time. So as you can see, the function they are giving right here is this get static part. So let me not bore you with this odd much details, and let me just go back to our own project. Then I'll go back to VS Code, and inside these pages right here, I'm going to create a new folder called client story, like so. Then inside this client story, I'm going to create the slug. Remember, it has to be in square brackets, and this can be whatever you want. I'm using slug right here. So I'll say slug, then we'll say the astro, like so. So now that we have this, we'll bring in our code fence, and inside here I will say export function. I'll say get static path, like so. Then inside this function, what I will do now is that I want to grab the slug from the client storage data. So if I go to client storage data, I just want to grab the slug from here. And just to reiterate on what I've said, I'm working with static data. So if you're fetching the data for somewhere else, the way you are going to get your slug or whatever you want might be different. So just keep that in mind. So in our case, I'll just say const logs, like so. Then I'll just say client stories data dot map. Then we'll say story, and I will grab the story dot slug, like so. And remember, let's make sure that we're importing the client storage data. So now that we have all these logs, so what we need to do now is just to return this. So we say return slugs, like so, the map. Then we just want to grab or store the slug in the param. So we just say params, so, and we'll put it inside the slug, like so. Should be slug. All right, so basically we got all the slugs, then we are mapping over each of the slug and just putting it right here. So we want to now have access to this slug right here. So the way to do that, outside this function, we just say const, and I will just say astro dot params, like so. So if I do control and space bar, you see that automatically we get the slug right here. Let me get rid of this, sorry about that. Then what we need to do now is to grab each story. Then we say client stories dot find. So we want to find the story that matches, or the slug that matches rather. So we say story, like so. And we say story dot slug is equals to the slug right here. So when we click on story, on any story, we want to check if it matches whatever slug that we are currently on. So if it doesn't match, let's just try an error. We'll say if there's no story, so we can just say true new error. I know what, I'm just going to tab this because we don't really care much about writing this. So I will save, and what I'll do next is just to render out the particular slug. So I will just come here and say layout like so, and make sure you import it. And for the title, remember that we give it a title initially. So if I go to layout Astro, you would see it here. So the title is going to be, let's just say the story dot name. Then you know what, let's put this in backticks. So we just do like so, and this should be like so. So we say story the name, then we just add an hyphen here and say client story. All right, let me Ctrl Z this back and let's make sure I have something here. So I'll add a main tag, and for the styling I'll say this should be mean height screen, give it a background and margin top of 20, and let's just render something. So let me just say the h1 should be the story name for now, just to make sure that it's working. So I'll save. So if we go back and I click on read more, it should take us to this Jack Smith, and you can see Jack Smith here, and you can also see it here as well. So we can now confirm that everything is working nice. But the only difference is that if we go back now and I do that again, I see that the page is refreshing. We're going to fix that after we finish building this details page. So I can get rid of this right now, and I'll bring in a div, and for the class this is going to be bg of card, give it a border bottom, then for the border color we'll just say border. Then inside this div I'm bringing a new div again, and this will have a max width of 4xl like so. Give it make it to be at the middle, then also add a padding x of 4, and smaller devices and up will give us a padding x of 6, large devices and up will give us a padding x of 8, and we just add a padding y of 8 rather. Then inside this div we'll bring in the a tag, so I'll say a tag like so, and for the href we just go back to the home page, and for the class let's just say class should be inline flex, items is going to be center, gap maybe 2, text will be small, font will be medium, then for the text color we see text muted, foreground on hover the text should just be foreground like so, then add a transition colors like so. And did we add a margin? Let's add a margin, so we say margin should be 6. Then for the content we're just going to bring in this arrow, sorry about that, so bring this back like so. So for the content we'll say arrow left like so. Have we imported it? Okay, then let's just give it a size. So for the class name you can say the size should be 4. Then for the text we can just say back to stories. So basically back to stories is just going to take us back to the home page, and this should not be showing here. So just in case we run into this issue, what I normally do is I normally kill my terminal and run it again. So I'll say pnpm dev. So let's check it out one more time. So you can see now it's coming in like this. I think it's a caching issue from Astro's end. So moving on, under this a tag we'll bring in the h1, so we can say this is going to be the story name. So for the class we're just going to say text should be 4xl Smaller devices and up, text should be 5XL. Give this a font of bold, and the color should be the foreground. Now the margin bottom of 2, like so. Then for the title itself, you can just say story.title. Then for the styling, this will be text large, then text muted foreground. So if we check back now, you can see it's coming as this. Alright, we are cooking, guys. So the next thing to do is to create the main content, because as you can see, this is the main content. So I will just, should I do it underneath this? You know what, let's just do it underneath this last div and just say main content. So say main content. Then we'll say bring in a div, and for the styling, this will be max width of 4XL. Then CMX should be auto, padding X of 4, smaller devices and up, padding X of 6, basically what we did earlier on. So large devices and up, padding X will be 8. And let's just add like a padding Y of 12 general. Then inside this div, bring in another div again. This will have a margin of 12. Then basically this div is holding the these two images right here. So before and after. Alright, so inside this div, we'll create another div again. And for the styling for this will be display grid. So we say grid close should be 1. And we say on medium devices and up, this should be grid. Then also say grid close should be 2. Then add a gap of 6 and a margin bottom of 6, like so. Then inside this div, we'll bring in another div again. This will be rounded large. Overflow will be hidden. Then we'll add the border. I give this color of border. Then inside this, we'll bring in the image tag. But you know what? Let's use, since we're on Astro, let's use the image from Astro. Then for the source, basically going to say story dot before image, like so. Then for the alt attributes, we can just say, let's just say story name, like so. Then, or we can also still add, you know what, let's just, since we're there, let's just go all in and say story dot name. It should be in parentheses. Then we can just say before, like so. Then for the class, no class list, just class, like so. This will be width of full, height will be auto, object will be cover. Then the aspect ratio will be 3/4, like so. So we can save, and we'll go back. We should see the before image. Then under this before image, I'm going to bring in a new div, and we give this a background of muted. Padding will be 4. Then set the text to center. Then inside this div, I'll bring in a p tag with a text of before and another p tag. We're going to style both of them shortly with a text of story dot start date. Then for this one, the styling is going to be font of semi-bold and text foreground. Then for this one, I'm going to say text should be small. Then we say text should be muted foreground for the color. So if you check back, we should see the before like so. But remember, this is what we want to achieve. So what we need to do now is to, since this is a grid, we'll just come here and I will okay, I feel why this is coming up. I think this supposed to put this inside this, like so. So I think that's why we're having that issue. Yeah, it should be like so. So we can now duplicate this one. So I'll copy this and paste it right here. And the only thing we're changing should just be the after image, and this should just be after, as well as this. Okay, so we can now save this like so. So if we go back now, we should see the before and after. And the only thing for the after, we should still change the dates here to the end date as well. So we'll see the before and the after. So underneath this div, so let me close out this one. So this is going to hold the story overview. So right here, we can create a new div and we'll give this margin bottom of 12, padding of 6, rounded of large. So give this a border and say border should be border. Then for the background, this should be card of 50. Then inside this div, we're bringing an h2. So this should be h2, not h1. That says the journey. Then for the styling here, this is going to be text of 2XL, font of bold, then text foreground, like so. Then we'll say margin bottom of 4. Then underneath this, we have a P with a class. So we'll say text should be large, then text of foreground as well. Then the line height will be relaxed. And for the text, we'll say story dot full story, like so. So we'll check back and let's see if it matches what we have. Okay. So now the next section is the goals section. So you can come underneath this and say goals, like so. Then we'll bring a div like this and give it a margin bottom of 12 as well. Then for the h2, we can just copy this because both of them are fairly similar. Copy this one like so, paste it here. Then this will be goals. Then what we're going to do is to bring in a div. So this will be display grid, but it's going to happen on the medium devices and up. So we say medium devices and up should be display grid, and this should be grid calls of 2, and also at the cap of 4. Then inside this, we'll just basically map through all the goals that we have. So we say goals to map, then grab the goal like so. So Ctrl Z, do that again. Then we'll say we'll bring in a div, and this should be a class of padding for, should be rounded of large. Give this a border and a border of border, and give this a background of card, and set it to 50 just like we did for the initial one. Then inside here, we'll just bring in a p tag and just pass in that goal like so. Then for the styling here, we just set the text to foreground. So we can save, and if we check now, we should see it right here, just like this one. So this is the next section, result achieved, and you might get the gist right now. So you know what, let me be closing all this. For this one, I think it's underneath here. So and just say results like so. Then this will also have the margin bottom of 12, and it's fairly similar with this section we just created. You know how we just do? So copy this and I'll paste this here. So this will be results achieved, and for this we just say story dot results like so. Then we'll just come here and say the border should be the primary 30 like so, and for the card we just set this to primary and the passage should be 5. So if we save now, we should see this. All right, so the next thing we're going to be, I think, is the challenges. Yeah, so the challenges before the key takeaway. So for the challenges, we'll just repeat the same pattern, at least for the title. So I can just say, let's make sure we're doing that one. Okay. So we can just say challenges like so. And this is going to be a margin of 12. For the title, I will just copy this. And just for context, this is where AI really shines, because once you've given it a good start, it's just going to to complete the rest for you. As you can see, it's trying to guess what I want to do next. But I'll just hit on tab, and for this particular part, this is obviously going to be in a div, and this should be challenges overcome. And for this now, we just put this inside a div, and this will be a class of space y of 3. Then inside this div, we want to now map over each of the challenges. So let me first of all get rid of this one. So this we're going to type it by hand because it doesn't know what we want to do. So say challenges, storage of challenges. Then we're going to map over each challenge, if I can spell challenge very well, and we'll create a div. So we'll use the class name like so. Let me do that again. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so this is going to be flex, gives a gap of 3, padding of 4, rounded will be large, gives a border, and a border should be border. Then background card, set this to 50, and inside this div we'll bring in another div, and this will be flex shrink like so. I'll set it to 0. Then for the size, not width, so for the size we'll set it to 6, and okay, this should be shrink like so. Okay, then for the border radius, we're just going to say rounded to 4. Then add a primary of 20 for the background, and this should be item should be center. If item should be center, we need to add flex. Sorry about that. So item should be center. Then justify should be center as well. Then inside this div, we bring in a span tag. So we say span. We use the period sign because we want to add class as well. So say text should be small. Then font should be semi bold. Then text should be primary. Then inside the span tag, we just bring in I think we'll use the index. Yeah. So if we're using an index, let me first of all save this like so. Then we can just pass in that index here. Just say index and right here. So here we're going to say this should be index plus 1 like so. And in case if you are wondering why we're using plus 1, remember that index starts at 0. So it's going to be 0 plus 1, which will give you 1. And we don't want to start counting from 0. So that's why we're adding 1. So if we check back now, you can see the numbers are lining like so. So we can come back here, and underneath the span tag, or rather underneath this div, we can just say p tag should have a class of text foreground. So, and this should be the challenge itself. So challenge. So I can save. And if we go back now, we should see each of the challenges. Then the next part is the key takeaway. So let me shrink this one down. So here should be key takeaways, and this should be margin of 12. I'll just copy this one and let Copilot do this for me. So now underneath this, we're going to repeat. I think it should be similar. Let's check. Yeah, it's similar, just that this changes. So we're using this correct icon. So this check mark icon, this is what we're using. All right, so what I will just do is I'll copy everything here and I will paste it here like so. Then this should be key takeaways, and it should be takeaways. So I'm just going to tab this and also tap this one. Then for the span, instead of doing this, what I'll just do is I will copy this again from here, and you can choose to use the check mark if you want. I think there's a check mark from Lucid React. You can choose to do something like this if you want to, like so, but just quickly use what we used, or rather I'll use what I use on the finished project. All right, cool. Then I think we're almost done with this part. We're just in this testimonial section right here. So for this part, just going to go underneath and say testimonial. So then this is going to be inside the div, and this should be padding of 8. Rounded should be large. Use a border. For the border color should be primary. Say over 30. Then for the background color, we can say primary over 3. So inside this div, bring in a p tag with a class name, and this would be text of extra large. Text would be foreground. Then we just make it italic and add the margin bottom of 4, and this should be in quotes. Then we can just say the story testimonial. Then also add another p tag, and I think I'm going to tab this, but for the styling I will just set this to text primary like so. Then get rid of this text right. So if we go back now and check, we should see it like so. Nice. So the last thing we need to do is to add this back button. So I think I need to bring this guy back. Okay, so underneath this now we can just say back button. It should be 2t, and this is going to be inside the div, and this is going to be I think we didn't add the margin top bottom to this. Okay, let's just do it here. Let's just say margin top should be 12. Then we'll bring in an a tag, and this is going to take us back to the home page and add a class of inline flex. Items is going to be center, gap will be 2, add a padding of 6. I just realized I did spell this correctly. A padding y of 3, rounded will be large, add the border, and also add the border of border like so. Hover is going to be bg asset then set the transition colors and font of medium. Also, the text should be foreground. So inside this, we use the arrow. Make sure you're inside this. So let me confirm and get rid of this. So we say arrow left like so. Then we'll say back to all stories. It should be class name because it's a React library. So we'll save. And if we go back now, cool. Just that we need this to be in the center. So we'll just say text center. So if I save now, it should now be in the center. Nice. So we've not created the footer section yet. So we're going to do that shortly as we progress. So what I want to add now is the transition. So if I go back now, the page is going to refresh, as you can see. So Astro has what we call view transitions. So it was initially called view transition, but now they call it client router. So it's basically using the view transitions API behind the scene. And luckily for us, view transition is now, should I use the word adaptable for different browsers, so you can use it flawlessly. And with Astro, if the browser does not work well with the view transitions API, it's just going to default to the normal way it normally loads. Okay, so to do that, it's very simple. So we just need to go to the layout, the Astro file, because that's the main root file of everything. So right here, I'll just import the client router from the Astro transitions like so. And what we just need to do is to just put it right here. So we can say, let's just do it here. So we can just say client router like so. So you save and go back like so. So if I click on the read more now, you can see that it didn't take up to a minute. And also you will see that it loads very fast, because with the client router in Astro, what it does is that it refreshes the page you want to view. So if I go back now and I hover on, so if I go to this next one and I hover on this, it has already refreshed this page. So if I click on it now, it's not going to take long. It's just going to like render it immediately. So that's one reason why I love using Astro client router. I'm going to still call it view transition because that's what it does. And don't worry, I'm going to do a separate video where I'll talk in details about it. All right, so the next section that we're going to build is going to be the about section. So this part right here. So go back to our own project, then I'll go back to stories. So it's going to take me back to the default page, which is the home page. Then I'll go to our code, and under the pages folder, I'll create a new file called about.astro. Then let's just bring in the code first now, because we'll be importing some things in a minute. So I'll bring in a section, and this is going to have an ID of about. So let me do this again. This should be about. Then for the class name, this is going to be padding of 20 for the top and bottom. Then inside it, we bring in the container class. Then inside this, we bring in a new div as well. So this div is going to have a display of grid, but we want it to show on medium devices and up. So let me go back right here. So say on medium devices, this should be display grid, and the columns is going to be 2. Then we also set the gap to 12. Then inside this is where we want to put in the first column. So the first column right here is the image, the other one is the main content. So I can just choose to say this one should be image. Then we also have another one for content. So for the image, we're going to bring in a div, and we're going to give it a class of relative, and inside this div I'm going to bring in another one, and this one is going to hold the border or this gradient background color you're seeing right here. So we're going to be adding this background ourselves. So I'll go back right here and we'll say bg gradient. Then this should be to bottom right. Okay, yeah, this should be linear. I keep forgetting this, not gradient. Then we'll say from primary, and we'll set to 20 to slate, and also set the border radius to 2xl. Then inside this, we bring in the image component from Astro. So this one, and this is time that we should import the image that we need. So right here, I will just import the image. I'll call it about image from, we'll say assets, then we'll say about the png. So we'll come back and now we'll set the source to be the about image img rather, not full image. The all should be, I just say about image. Then for the class, I'm going to give it a width of 4. It should be inside the string, or the quote rather. Rounded should be 2xl as well. Set the aspect ratio to square. Then object is going to be cover. All right, nice. Therefore the content, or you know what, before we talk about the content, let's just quickly display it. So I'll go to our page, or rather index, then right here I'll say about, and I'll just tab this because this is what I need. Then I'll just import it, so, and save. And if we go back to our own now, we should see the image coming through just as this one here. All right, nice. So we need to add the content. So for the content, we just come underneath this and bring in a new div, and this is going to have a class of space y of 6. So we want to add space in between anything we're going to add inside this main div, parent container div right here. All right, so the first thing we're going to bring in is still a div, but it's going to have a max width of 800 pixels, I think, and they gave a size last time. Okay, didn't give a size. Then mx is going to be auto, so mx auto, then give it a margin bottom of 12. Then inside this div, we'll bring in an h2, and it's going to have a class. So for the class, it's going to be text 4xl for the font size. Then the line height is going to be, let's just do 1.3 or 4. Then we'll set it to bold and add a margin bottom of 2. Then inside this div, you can just say your favorite certified spell personal trainer, yeah, like so. Then inside this, we bring in the p tag, and this is going to have the content that says about me. I think they are all in uppercase. So for the styling, this will be text large. Then for the color will be text muted foreground, like so. Foreground, yeah. So let's see what we have so far. All right, nice. Okay, so for the main content itself, we're just going to like section it into different p tags. So let me just copy this first one right here, and I'll come back and just underneath this div, I'll bring in a p tag like so. I'll paste in the content and save. And for this content, the class will be text large. Then we'll give this the color of text muted foreground, like so, and we should see it right here. Then for this other one, similar thing as well, but I'm not going to make the text large, so I bring in a p tag as well. Then for the styling, let me do that again. I think it's not giving me the autocomplete as usual. Okay, now it gives it to me. Okay, for the styling, we're just going to give it the text of muted foreground, and I'll paste in the content. So let me do that like so. So we should be seeing it right here. Yeah. Then for the other content, we're going to just underneath this p tag, bring in a div. For the style, we're going to set it to background of primary, then say over 10, like so. I'm gonna give it a border left of 4. So this article is going to be for the color, it's going to be primary, then give it a padding left of 6, padding y of 4, then we'll set it to italics, so italic, like so. Then for the color will be text muted foreground as well. Then inside this div, I can just copy the content. What was the content? Okay, so copy it like so, paste it right here. You can choose to still put this in the p tag as well if you want to do that. I don't think that's going to change anything. It's going to give you the same thing as well, and you can choose to just put it on the div tag itself. Then for underneath this one, we just bring in the button. Make sure this button is coming from shad cn. So the content will be start your, before we say the content, I think this is clickable, so let me check. Yeah, so this one is clickable, so it's going to be in an a tag, then it's going to just take us to the content section. Then we'll say start your journey, so then for the size, we just set it to large. So let's check now. All right, cool. So it's coming in, and I just feel that the difference is just the color, but I do prefer this one though. So we're going to leave it as is. So the next section that we're going to be building is going to be the contact section. So I will come back here and I'll come to our pages folder as well, and I'll call this one CTA. So uppercase like this to Astro. You can choose to still call it contact, it doesn't change anything. So right here, I'm going to bring in, before I bring in the section, let me just bring in the code fence, like so. Then right here, we'll just bring in the section tag, and for the ID, this is going to be contact. Then for the class, this is going to be py of 20. I'll set it to relative. Then inside this section, bring in a div, and this is going to have a class of absolute. So then the top will be 0, left will be 0, height will be full, width will be full as well. Then for the background, this will be bg black, then we set it to over 80. We'll give it a negative z index of 10, like so. So this is basically the overlay you are seeing right here. Then for the image, let me just quickly bring in that image I will need. So say import, and let me call this one CTA image. Then we'll say assets, I think it's called CTA, yeah. So underneath this, we can say image, like so. Then the source is going to be the CTA image. Then the auth will also be CTA image. Then the class will be width of full, it should not be in curly brackets. So set width to 4, set it to absolute, top 0 as well, left to be 0, height to be full. Then set the object to cover and give this a z-index of 30, like so. Negative 30, I mean. So let's go back to our index of Astro, and I'll bring in the CTA right here. So we say CTA, let me import this one. All right. So if we check back now, we should see something right here. Cool. So we just need to add the main content. So underneath this image, we'll bring in a new div, and this is going to be class of container. Inside this, bring in another div as well, and this is going to be a max width of 800 pixels, as we've been doing. Then we'll also give this a mx of auto, and this time we set everything to center. Then inside this div, we'll bring in the h2 that says this is not h1, h2. Let me copy the text. It said ready to transform, paste this one here. So let me copy this other one because we need it as well too. All right. So for the styling here, we'll set this to text 4XL. On medium devices and up, text should be 5XL. So let me bring this here. Then the color should be secondary. The leading, which is the line height, will be 1.3. Then font will be bold, and add an MB of 2, like so. Then for the p tag, I will just paste in the content. Then for the class, this is just going to be text of large. I'll give this a text card of 60, like so. So we'll save, and yeah, it's coming together. Then underneath this one, so still on the container, underneath this div, we'll bring in a new div that says this one is going to have a class of max width of 2XL. MX will be auto as well. Give this a background of card. Then this will be border. This will be border coda. So border. Then we'll give this a rounded of XL and the padding of 8. So inside this div, we'll bring in a form tag, because this is where the main form is going to be. Then we'll get rid of the action, but we'll give this a name. So this name is to let Netlify know what this form is for, because you can change the name and have multiple forms if you choose to. So we'll call this one consultation. Then for the method, this is going to be post. So then we'll set data Netlify. We'll set it to true. Then to prevent bots, we'll set the Netlify honeypot. We'll also set that to bot field. This should be honeypots, like so. And I think there should be a hyphen between this bot field. Then for the class, I'm just going to give this space y of 6. And inside this form, I'm going to bring in an input tag, like so, but this one is going to have a type of hidden. Then the name will be the form name. So in our case, the form name is what? Consultation. So we'll set the value to consultation. So basically, I don't want to put you in the stress of going through Netlify docs and showing you the whole process. So that's what tutorial like this are for. So basically, this is one of the method in order for you to easily collect data from a form using Netlify. All right, cool. So we are not done. We need to add like a honeypot feed for spam protection so that we don't get multiple spam emails, or in this case multiple spam requests. So to do that, we'll come right here and I'm bringing a p tag. So what I'm doing here is on the Netlify docs. So we'll set the class to hidden, like so. Then inside this p tag, I'll bring a label and say this should be, let me get rid of this one. The content should be, don't fill this out if you are human. Then for the name, I'll set it to bot field, like so. Then inside this content, I'll bring in the input field, and this should be, oh sorry, the input field should be the name. I think I misquoted this too, so this should be the name actually. So the name should be bot field, like so. All right, so underneath the p tag, we'll bring in a div, like so, and this one is going to just hold the form itself. So we'll say on medium devices and up, it should be grid, then the columns should be 2, then also give it a gap of 4, like so. Then inside this div, I'll bring in another one and give this a class of space y of 2. Then inside this one, I'll bring in the label tag, but this one is going to come from shardcn. So we're going to be using the label and the input from shardcn, the component. So I'll quickly go to shardcn to search for label. So say label is this one. So we just copy it like so, and on this tab I'll paste it right here. You can also import multiple, but when I was building the project and I installed multiple, like the label and the input together on Astro, I got some errors. So I would urge you, if you are doing this project, just do them individually. So while that is installing, we'll search for inputs. So this one right here. So copy it as well. Then I think this is done. So I'll clear my screen and import, or install rather, or install this other one. So while that is installing, I think I can import this one now. Then for this one, I'll give this the HTML4 attributes, and this one is going to be for the name, and this is going to be full name. Then I think the input is installed as well. For the input as well, I'm going to import it. I think this is not letting me import, so let me try that again. Oh, you know what, I will just copy it here and put it like so. So the error should be gone. Then for the input, we set the ID to name so that it matches this HTML4 attributes. Then the name itself should be name. So this one is to collect the name data, send it to the 5 forms. Then the type is text. The placeholder, we can just say John Doe. Then we'll set it to required. So we're going to repeat the same pattern. So I'll copy this one like so, then duplicate it. I think it's 3 more times. So let's do 1, 2, 3. So this one will be for The second one will be for the email. So this one will be for email. This will be email. The Copilot is giving me a suggestion right here, of which I'm going to accept. Then we'll do the same for this one. This is going to be for phone, and hopefully it gives me the autocomplete of everything as well. So for this one now, let's see if it's going to, okay, so we can work with this one. Then the next one, I think the next one, yeah, the next one is like a select drop down. And again, for the drop down, and let me get rid of this. So let me see what we have so far. So let me go back. All right, it's coming together. So let me check this one again. Okay, but I think the phone should take the entire width this time. So let me check out this too. So if the phone is taking the entire width, we need to grab this div right here and we'll put it under this one that has this grid right here. So if we do like so, we should see that it's taking the full width. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so the next section is going to be the select or the drop down section. So this will be a div with a space y2. The label we're going to use, the label that we've been using. So this one will be your go. Then for the HTML4, set it to go. Then for the class, you know what, since we'll be using the select tag and not the one from Shartian, because I don't know if it's broken on Shartian. I tried it earlier on, it didn't, it showed some errors and it was from the component itself. So since we'll be using the native or the default select tag, I'll just use the default label. I think that makes more sense. So this one will be go and this will be class, not class name. So this will be text, small, font will be medium, the line height will be none, and let's see what we have so far. Yeah, I think it's similar to what we have. Yeah, okay. So for the select tag itself, so just underneath it, we'll bring in the select tag like so. Then we'll give this, the name should be goal, the ID should be goal as well. Then for the class, this is going to be flex, height will be 10, weight will be 4, rounded will be MD, give us a border, so, and the color is going to be border impute. Then background will be background, give this a padding of 3 for the X and Y. For the left and right, then top and bottom should be 2. Then the text itself will be small. Then we'll give this a ring offset of background. So this one will be background. Then also on focus, we just say focus visible should be outline on. So when we focus on it, we want to remove the outline. Then on focus again, we'll set the ring. So basically the ring is this stuff right here, this stuff you're seeing. So we'll set it to, let me go back to 2 as it is. Then again, focus visible, the color should be ring. Then focus visible, the ring now should be offset 2, like so. Then I think we also need to set it to required, so just in case, because that's what we'll be doing. So set to required. So for the options, so we can just say option, and we can leave the first one as it is. So you can just say select your goal. You know what? Let's just get rid of it right here. So let me, oops, I think this is going to be, okay, it's not going to be an issue. Yeah. So this one is going to be, let me see if I can duplicate it how many times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one is going to have the value of weight loss. Let's say weight loss, and the text is going to be weight loss. Next one is going to be muscle gain. So the value as well will be muscle gain. Then this one is going to be strength building, like so. Then the value is going to be strength building. Then also we're going to give this one endurance. So we say no education, endurance, and this is going to be endurance. Then we need one more for general fitness. This will be general fitness, like so. So we save, and if we come back, we should be able to select the one we want. How cool is that? All right, so I also think we need to add a margin bottom to this your goal label right here. So let me do margin bottom of like 2. Let's see if that worked. Okay, so in case if this did work, we need to set the display to inline block, because it's inline by default, and you can't add margin to an inline element. So it's coming in right now, just as these other ones. So the next one we need to add is this, like a bio. You can call it a message. So underneath this div right here, we'll bring in a new one, and this will be a class of space space y. So as well, then for the label, this should be like so, label and HTML4. So it should be message, and say tell me about your current fitness level and challenges. So there should not be any. Okay. Then we need to add the text area, this text area tag, but we have that in Shadcn. So let's bring that in. So say text area. So just quickly copy this and clear my screen on my terminal and paste it right here. So hit enter. So while it's installing, so I can bring it right here and say text. So text area like so. Then for the ID, we give it a message. Okay, I think it's done installing. So let me quickly import it. I don't know, most times it doesn't just work like that. Okay, I think I spelled it wrong. So let's try it again. It's still the same thing. So what we'll do is I'll copy this and just bring it in like so. All right. So the name is going to be message. For the placeholder, we can just say use the quotes right here. So we can say I'm currently training 3 times a week, but struggling with horses. This should be struggling, not struggle line. Struggling with consistency. Then we just add dot dot dots like so. And save. Alright, so let's see what we have. Okay, for the class name, or rather for the styling, this is just going to be resize, set it to none, and for the height we'll set it to 24. Then just underneath the div, bring in the button. Again, this one is going to be from Chatien. Then the type is going to be submit. Then class name will be width of 4, like so. Then the text will be schedule consultation. All right, so let's see if that came in. Okay, so I think we also need to set the cursor to pointer. So say pointer like so. All right, so this is going to like trigger the form once all the fields are is complete. Okay, I think the last thing we need to add, okay, is this text right here. Let me just copy it since we're here. So just inside the form as well, I can just say the p tag. Let me paste it right here. Then for the styling, we'll just say the text to center. Then the text should be small. And also for the color, it's going to be the muted foreground, like so. Nice. If we check now, I'm going to see it like this. So we'll not be testing it right now. Remember, we need to activate it on Netlify so that when we submit it, Netlify is going to give us a page where we can render to the user. And also we need to add a margin to this p tag right here. So let me go back and say where is it at? So right here I'll just say margin of 12. Let me see how that goes. Yeah, so I think it's more better. All right, so the last section we're going to build is going to be the footer section. So this is the last section before we deploy our project to Netlify. So I will go back to our home, and I notice that it's showing home right here. Then this one is showing the Ryan Chase. So let me quickly fix that. So go to the index, Astro, and this should be Ryan Chase like so. And also let me just accept this one. So it's more rich, yeah. So this is more better. And of course, once we go to the details page of history, it's going to change as you can see right here. So let me go back. Okay, so the footer section, it's part of the layout itself, because when we go to navigate to another page, we still want that footer page or section to still show. So we are not going to add it right here. Basically, we're done with this file. So I'll go to components, then I will say this should be footer to Astro like so. Then this should be in a quote fence, and for this section we'll be using the footer tag. Then this is going to have a class of bg card, then border of top, and also the color should be border, and py should be 12 like so. So let me just add something random for now. Just say hey there. Okay, so we can go to our layout to Astro, and underneath the slot we'll just bring in the footer like so. Then I'll just import it. And you don't need to add the client directive of load because it's not an interactive component. It just renders static data. So if we go down now, you can see the content right here. So let's add some things to it. So I'll get rid of it and I'll put this inside the container. Then we'll bring in a div as well. So this one is going to be on medium devices and up. We'll set it to grid. Again, on medium devices and up, we'll set the grid close to 4 this time. And also we'll set the gap to 8 and set the margin bottom to 12. Then I'll bring in a div. Then this one is just going to be on its own. It's going to be the first column. Then we'll have an H3 that says Ryan Chase, like so. Then for the class name or for the styling, we'll give this a text of Excel, font of bold, text of primary. Then give this a margin bottom of 4. Then underneath this one, we give this a class of text muted foreground. Then we say text should be small. Then the text is going to be, let me copy it here. So this one I'll paste it like so. So that's for the first column. The other column is going to be, you can choose to, let me just do that right here. So this one will just be column 1. And this will be column 2. So inside this div, we'll bring in an H for this time that says quick links. So say quick links, and the class here will be font semi bold. Then add the margin bottom of 4. Then since this is an unordered list, so we just say unordered list like so, and we're going to bring in 3 list items. So say 3 list items, say list L items 3. So I'm using image shortcut. Then we'll have an A tag under each of the list items. So we'll say greater than symbol, then we'll just say A like this. So if I hit enter, we're going to get something like this. So the first one is going to take us to the services. So I'll hit tab, and the content is going to be services. I'm going to add the styling for them shortly. And the other one is going to be results. If I hit tab, it should be results. Then the last one is going to be about. So if I hit tab, it's going to be about. So for the UL, the styling is going to be space Y. So text will be muted foreground. I will set the text to small. Then on the A tag itself, we'll give this a class. I will set it to hover. Should be the text primary. Then we'll add the transition, set it to colors like so. And we'll just repeat the same thing for the other one. So I think I will just hit tab because Copilot made it easier for us. All right, so the next column, let me close this one out. It's going to be column 3. So this is going to be in a div tag as well. Then this is going to be, let's say, an H4 as well. Then, I'm supposed to copy it from here, but I'll just write it out again. So it will be font of semi bold, then the margin bottom of 4. Then for the UL, we'll just set this to class should be space Y2, text should be muted foreground, and text should be small. And under this, we just have 2 LI. And the first one is going to be the email. So this can be any email. So ideally, this should be clickable, but I'll just leave it as it is. But you can choose to put this inside an A tag and reference it properly. But I'll just leave it like so. I'll leave you to figure that out. So this one as well, we'll put it like so. save. And I think for the last column, so we'll say column 4 is going to be a div as well. And I'll copy the styling here. It's fairly similar. We're just changing this to follow. Then this one is going to be a div and the class will be flex. I'll give this a space of x. I'll set it to 4. And also I just thought about this, instead of space of x, since we're using flex, just give it a gap of 4. So inside this div, we'll bring in an a tag like so. So let me do that again, and this should not take us anywhere. Then for the content, we just set this to Instagram. So I'm going to import this one from Lucid React. Then for the class name, it's going to be like a size of 5, and for the styling, set it to border. Let me give it a width of 1.5 pixels. Border is going to be primary. For the color on hover, it's going to be text of white. Then we'll give this a padding to around. Then also add a border radius of large, and on hover, BG is going to be primary. And let's add the transition of colors. So we can save, and I'll copy this and duplicate it. And this one is going to be for Twitter. So we can just say Twitter, like so. And let's import it. Okay, I guess it has been imported. So let's save and go back. So we can see it right here. Is this the finished? Okay, this is the finished version. So I was wondering for a moment. Yeah. So this is our own version. The next or the last thing we need to add is this copyright section. So again, I'll copy this one, and let's go back to our own project, and let me close this one. So basically underneath the last div, so right here, I'll bring in a new div like so, and I will put this in a p tag and paste it right here. Then for the class here, it's going to be border top. Then the color is going to be border. Then we'll give it a padding top of 8. Text is going to be center, and we'll say text going to be muted foreground, like so. Then we'll set the text size to small. So let's come back and check. Okay, so I think it's falling inside the grid. Let me close this out. Okay, so it's inside the grid. We need to take it off that grid container. So I'll copy this one, and let me close this out. So I'll put it right here, and I think that should fix it right now. Yeah, so it has fixed it. All right, nice. So let's just preview our website on mobile. So if we scroll, so far everything looks nice. Yeah, not bad. Just that we just need some little adjustments right here. So what I will do is I'll come right here, and I think we also need to add a space. Let me see, space Y of like 4 right here, to see if we're going to add space between them, which it did. Then we can just say on medium devices and up. We want to get rid of that because everything is going to be on column. So let's just get rid of it on medium devices and up. All right, so that looks nice. All right, so our website is ready. All we just need to do is to deploy it out for others to use it. So before we deploy it out, we need to make sure that our project is on GitHub. So this is not like a criteria for this to work. You can choose to deploy it without putting your project to GitHub, but it saves you, or it's more easier when you push it to GitHub, so that when you want to make changes, you don't have to do like a build and deploy it manually. So I'll go to github.com and make sure you have an account. I'm very sure you have an account. Since you're watching this video, you should have an account. So I'll go to new right here. Then for the repository name, I think I already have Chase. So I'll just call this one Gym Websites YT. Like so. Then I'll make it public so that you guys can have access to it. I think that's for that. Then I'll just click on create repository. So while this is creating, I will just open my terminal and I'll clear terminal out. And then, you know what, let me just make this big. So I'll say git add dot. So this is going to add everything. So I'll clear this out and I'll say git commit -m. I will say first commit. I'll hit enter like so. Then I'll clear this out and I'll go back, and we've already done all this part. So git add, git commit. So I'll just copy this entire thing right here like so. Then I'll paste it right here and hit enter again. So if it's your first time, it's going to bring a modal and tell you to confirm something so that it doesn't prompt you to hit enter every time. So just do that and you should be directed to this part. All right, so our project has been pushed. So I'll clear this out again. So if I refresh now, you should be able to see everything right here. Nice. And I think Astro has this Astrobot hosting. Okay, so now that our project is on GitHub, what we need to do is to deploy it on Netlify via GitHub, so that again, once we make a change, it's going to just do like a continuous deployment for us. We don't need to manually do anything ourselves. As far as we've pushed it to GitHub, GitHub will just handle the rest. So I will go to Netlify. So go to netlify.com and create an account if you don't have one. So go to add new project and select import from an existing project. So click on this first one. Then I'll click on GitHub. So search for that project. I think I called it Gym Websites. Yeah, this one. So click on it. And the project name, also give it Gym Websites YT. I'm going to take it down after deploying this, so that I'll leave just this main one. We'll leave everything else as they are. I'll just click on deploy Gym Websites. All right, so our project is currently building, and this should not take more than a minute though. All right, so our deployment failed, so let's check why. So we failed dream building. So okay, couldn't find Sharp. C Sharp's installation guide. Okay, so I guess we need to install this package called Sharp. So let's just do that. So I'll say pnpm I Sharp like so. It helps with images. So I don't know why it's prompting me to do that, but let's just install it. All right, so it has been installed, and in order for us to know that our project will run successfully, we can choose to still do a pnpm. So pnpm run build right here. So if it doesn't fail right here, it shouldn't fail during deploying to Netlify. So let's just test it out so that we'll know that we are all good to go. All right, so there was no error, and I'm guessing that Sharp is used to like optimize the image, and we didn't have that in Astro, so it converts the image to WebP. As you can see right here, so the before image was 78 kilobytes. With the Sharp package, it brought it down to 34 kilobytes. So the Astro component, image component, is responsible for that. All right, so let me clear this out. Now that we have that installed, we'll just do a git add. So let's just do another commit again. Then we just say git push. So now this is going to do like a continuous deployment. So if I go back to the project overview, it's going to run a fresh build for us with the commit right here. So I'll come back in the next 1 minute to see if this fails as well. All right, so it was not even up to a minute. We can see that our project is published. So we can click on the link right here and everything is working as it is, or as it should rather. So let's click on the images. All right, cool. So let me click on read more. Nice. So all these are being cached. So if I go back now and I open this Jacksmith again, it's not going to like reload the whole image again. So it just does that once. Okay, so the last thing we need to try is the form submission. So I'll go back to our Netlify account and I will go to forms, and you have to enable it. So just enable form detection. So now that we have that enabled, so all we need to do is to come back to our project and we'll just do like a refresh of the whole thing and go to contact like so. Then for this part, I will just add a random stuff right here. And I'll click on schedule consultation. Okay, I think it's telling me that something is wrong. Okay, it looks like you follow the broken link or enter the error that doesn't exist. Okay, so what we need to do, let me go back and let's go to our project. So let me bring this down and go to CTA. So let's quickly browse through what we are doing one more time. So the name we used here is the consultation. The method was post Netlify through only port was bot field. All right, so it seems I've kind of figured out where the issue is coming from. So I think the issue is coming from we putting the CTA on a pages directory. So the pages now is seeing this as a different route itself. So this is supposed to be inside the sections folder, not the pages folder. So that issue is from my end. So we need to go to the index of Astro and make sure that the path is correct. And I just realized I did the same to the about itself. So sorry if you're yelling at me to correct that. So this is going to be about, you know what, let's just make it uppercase. So about the Astro like so. Okay, so I'll get rid of it here and let me just do the same here. Okay, I don't know why it's not importing. I'm just doing manually and say about Astro, and this should be about. So we can save. I don't know why this is yelling out. What is it saying? Cannot find about the Astro. Let me look for that. Okay, it's here. So I'm just sure it's going to cache up. So let me just deploy this. I just say git add. And let's do git commit and say another commit again. So let's just push this time. So hopefully if we go back and go to our project overview, we should not get that error or this error this time. Let me clear it out. All right, so it has been published. So let me go to the website again. So this time, if we go to the contact, it should take us here. And if I fill in some dummy data and click on schedule consultation, you can see that now that our form submission has been received, So in order to check it out, you can come right here and go to forms, and you should see it right here. So if you click on it, you would see it like so. And just a bonus, if you want to get this direct to your email as well, what you need to do is to go to project configuration, and you go to emails and webhooks. So where is it at? So this one right here. So just add the notification, just say email notification, and you look for the form you want to listen to. So in our case, I'll just leave it like this. You add your email right here, then the form, you can see that the consultation form is the one that's showing. So once you add it and someone sends I think this is our own, let me go back. So once someone sends you a message here, it's going to be on your forms page right here, and also your email as well. Alright guys, so that is the size of this long tutorial. Hope you found it helpful, and also please do well to like, share and comment, and also just let me know what you want me to build for you next. See you on the next video.